Welcome to the first video from the cockpit of my RV12-iS November 221 Tango Foxtrot. My experience level using a GoPro and video editing software is quite low. My camera is an older GoPro and I don't yet have cockpit audio captured. I'm still experimenting with camera placement in the cockpit as well. So this video is purely for my personal use, largely to identify any good and bad habits. Anyone else watching this will have to keep those things in mind. The RV12-iS aircraft are produced by Vans Aircraft in two forms. It is available in both kit form or as a ready-to-fly aircraft. I researched carefully the design changes between the RV12 and RV12-iS. I decided on the IS model with the Rotax 912-iS Sport fuel-injected engine. Now, on any given day early this year when I was looking, I could find a few RV12s for sale, but there were never any IS models. That model was too new and few had yet been completed by early 2019, much less available for sale. In April 2019, there were only 5 or 6 RV12-iS aircraft registered with the FAA. Today, December 6, 2019, less than 8 months later, there are 31. In April of this year, I got lucky. I found an RV12-iS available on controller.com at a price I was willing to pay. It was an experimental light sport aircraft being built by a STEM program at a high school in Wichita, Kansas. Since it was still being built and obviously unpainted, I also had the option of picking my own paint scheme and colors, which I did. And here she is. Today's mission included several goals. First, get some altitude. Prior to this flight, I had 15 hours in the plane. Almost all of that was pattern work, maneuvers, and a couple short burger runs. I don't recall getting above 3,000 MSL. Today's flight was planned to be between 4,500 and 6,500 MSL. Goal number 2, validate that I could keep oil and coolant temps up where they needed to be. This turned out to require 2 overlapping rows of aluminum tape on both the radiator and oil cooler openings on the front of the cowl. That worked out great. Goal number 3, fly for over 2 hours, just because. Goal number 4, fly to the coast. Goal number 5, ring out the autopilot some more. Here's a screen capture from the Garmin display showing 2 objectives met: the oil temps up where they need to be, and altitude. The flight path today was 248 nautical miles. Here's the actual flight track. Initial takeoff was from my home airport, Fairweather Field, Tango X-Ray 42. In this picture, that's where the small yellow figure of a plane is shown. I flew northwest over Brenham Airport, then continued in that direction over Lake Somerville before turning southwest to LaGrange and flying over Fayette Regional Airport. From there I turned southeast toward the coast and Matagorda Peninsula, then northward back home. I burned a total of 9.5 gallons of MoGas 93E10. Folks, that's a whopping 3.5 gallons per hour. Wow. The flight duration was 2.6 hours at 95 to 100 knots. Here we are, run up complete and ready for takeoff. There was a fairly stout right gusting crosswind, but still within the 11-knot crosswind component of the RV. I overcorrected a bit and drifted right of the center line. I also was slow to go to full throttle and had some light bouncing of the nose wheel due to not enough back pressure on the stick. There was a bit of turbulence after takeoff. Not a big deal, and it got smooth above 2,500 feet. We're above Brenham now. The autopilot has been engaged in nav mode. I've already set the heading bug, so let's switch the autopilot to heading mode and head out to Lake Somerville. During this flight, I wanted to see what type of turn rate the autopilot would use. As expected, it makes standard rate turns, confirmed by the markings on the Garmin's attitude indicator. And here we are approaching Lake Somerville. We're about 21 minutes into the flight at this point, and I'm still about 2,800 feet MSL. It's at about this point where I begin a climb to 4,500 feet. Now we're just past Lake Somerville and begin to turn to the southwest. Once this turn was complete, I saw a tailwind of 15 to 25 knots. Very nice. Here's a screen capture from the Cloud Ahoy service at this point in the flight. This is not my actual Garmin display. It's created by Cloud Ahoy based on data from my flight data recorder. The Garmin G3X Touch display writes 1 row per second to a CSV file containing a wealth of information. The Cloud Ahoy website can import that file directly. My indicated airspeed is shown here in the center of the left vertical tape, 97 knots. My ground speed is at the top of that tape, showing 115 knots. That's an 18-knot tailwind at that moment in time. Later in the flight, when I turn back north, that tailwind will turn into a headwind. Skipping ahead, I'm now an hour and a half into the flight. I've been up to 6,500 feet for a while, flown over LaGrange, turned southeast, and descended to 5,500 feet. I'm now approaching the Gulf of Mexico and Matagorda Peninsula. At this point, I'm indicating 96 knots with a true airspeed of 105 knots and a ground speed of 122 knots. That tailwind is now at 26 knots. The rest of the flight home was uneventful. As expected, once I descended below 2,500 feet today, I got into rougher air again. We pick up the video lined up for final on runway 31. A good friend owns this hangar home and rents me a spot. What a guy. He even installed a remote door opener. Watch this.